Create complex buildings in a quick and easy way, just with iClone's standard tools. Using the modules provided by this pack and iClone 8.5 standard tools, you could build unlimited structures in a very simple and intuitive way, like if you were playing with a child construction set. This pack provides a huge number of modules for construction, divided in 4 mesh styles with 3 material variations each one. All the wall modules are 3 meters wide and they are divided in 3 categories. The GF modules that usually made the ground floor are 4 meters high. The MF modules that usually made the middle floors are 3 meters high. And the TF modules that conform the top floor have different heights depending on whether they are terrace walls or rooftop elements. For each style variation, the pack also supplies 45-degree corners for the ground, middle and top floors, as well as arches for the ground floor, and columns that can be attached to the ground, middle and top floors. A set of railings for the top floors or terraces are as well supplied for each style and material variation. The pack also supplies props to finish the cornices and plinths in the 90-degree corners of the building. So, let's start making a building with iClone 8.5. First thing we have to do is to go to the Preferences panel and set the Snap option. Remember that if you don't see the Preferences panel in your project, you can activate it just pressing Ctrl P. In this panel we'll scroll down until we find the Snap parameters. We should activate the Snap in its increment mode, and set the Move increment to 50 centimeters. It's also recommended to set the angle increment to 15 degrees. Now we are ready to start placing modules, but, although not strictly necessary, maybe you will like to activate the grid, pressing the Ctrl-G keys. Because the grid can help us orientating and guiding us in our building creation. In the Content panel we'll find the building modules provided by the pack. A total of 12 variations in shapes and materials. Let's start with the Style 1, and its first material variation. We can start selecting a central ground floor module like this main door, and we perform a mouse left button double click to load it into the scene. Then we can select another ground floor module like this one with a single window, and we perform the same operation. The window module is also loaded in the 0 out position, but we only have to select the motion gizmo, pressing W, and we could move the module. As the Snap tool is activated, the module moves in steps of 50 centimeters, and it's very easy to align it with the previous module. If we want to duplicate this module, we only have to press the Ctrl key while moving it. Again, the Snap tool allows us to place the next module very easily. Let's keep adding ground floor modules like this one with 2 windows. First, we move the module to its position, and then, we duplicate it again by moving it while pressing the Ctrl key. Notice that there are 3 versions of the solid wall. Each one has a seamless variation in the wall materials. We can alternate them in order to avoid a material repetition pattern. Now, let's make a 45-degree corner. These modules have C at the beginning of its name, and we see there are 3 available corners for this ground floor. Let's take the one with the windows. After moving the module near the corner, we select the rotating gizmo pressing the key, and we rotate the prop minus 45 degrees. We can use the Modify panel to ensure the module is rotated to a 45-degree angle. Then, pressing the W key again, we can move the module to its position. We can repeat the process of copying the module pressing the Ctrl key while moving it, and then use the E and W keys to rotate and move the new module in its place. And basically, this is the process we'll use to create our building. Selecting the modules from the Content panel or copying them from the ones already placed in the building, in order to place them in their position. We can select several modules, clicking them with the mouse left button, while pressing the Ctrl key, and copy all of them simultaneously, moving the selected group, while still pressing the Ctrl key. We can keep selected groups of modules, duplicating and placing them. filling the empty areas with new modules from the content panel, for example adding some back doors to the rear of the building. There are gaps in the cornices and plinths of the 90 degrees corners. That's why the pack provides the elements to fill them properly. Another way to end the 90-degree corners is using the columns provided by the pack. Although those columns can also be used in other areas of the building as decorative elements. The ground floor could be finished, but let's show how to add ground floor arches to the building. Like in the walls, there are 3 arch material variations, so we can put them side by side without getting a repetition pattern in the textures. As the arches are going to hide the cornices of the walls where they are attached, we can select the cornice subprops, double-clicking on them with the mouse left button, and once selected, we can delete them. Arches can be used in 2 ways. To show you how, let's copy some arches to the back side of the building as well. Let's add some more arches in the building back wall, just copying the current ones, but remembering to use alternate material variations in order to avoid the repetition pattern in the textures. One way to use the arches is aligning them with the main wall, creating an inner porch. In this case, we have to add 2 modules in the sides of the arches. Let's fill the gaps of these new ground floor corners. First the right cornice and plinth, and then the left ones. And let's remove the cornices of the lateral walls as they are not going to be visible. The other way to use the arches is leaving them protruding from the main wall, forming a terrace at the first floor level. And in this case, we'll need to add a floor for all the arch modules. In the increment snap mode, the snap feature also works in the Z-axis. So it's very easy to place the floors just in their right position. Once the terrace floors are in place, we should put some railings. In the railings folder, there is a middle module that we can put and duplicate in all the central part of the terrace. Then, there are special modules for the right and left corner sides. These modules, used just in the 90-degree railing corners, provide a perfect rounded shape in the railing structure. Notice that thanks to the snap feature, adding modules to the building is like playing with a Lego construction kit, leaving to your imagination how to use the available pieces. We could say that the ground floor is done. Maybe we could add floor modules in the porch entry. But consider that the street construction pack, offered in a bundle, along with this building construction pack, provides several pedestrian sidewalk modules that can be used in the building's exteriors. Looking at the scene manager, we can see all the modules used in the ground floor. Notice that most of them have subprops attached that can be detached and handled independently. So for example, we could delete all the plinths, or replace them for the ones from a different style. You can actually create new styles mixing those elements and changing their textures. This next step is not mandatory, but I recommend it. When I have the ground floor finished, I rename the first module I used as ground floor. Then, I select all the rest of the modules and I attach them to the module recently renamed as ground floor. In this way, I can select all the ground floor with a single click, but I have still access to all the individual modules. Pressing Ctrl F, we can get information about our project, and I can see that currently, I'm using 3.6 gigabytes of my graphic memory. But after selecting the ground floor parent object, we can go to the material editor in the Modify panel and activate the Auto Link feature. As all the modules are attached to the same parent one, iClone will search for materials used several times and will link them. Now I can see that my graphic memory usage has been reduced to 2.2 gigabytes. At this point, we can start building the middle floors. In the Content Manager, scroll down looking for the MF modules. Remember that the ones having AC, after the hyphen, are modules intended for the 45-degree corners. So, let's skip them at the moment, and select a nice middle floor balcony like this one. The construction of the first middle floor follows the same rules. We can select modules from the content list, or duplicate existing modules, placing them in position very easily thanks to the Snap tool. Here, we could use one of the 45-degree modules. This is the simplest option, and looks really nice and integrated. But as this is a tutorial, let's try something more complicated instead. Like making a big terrace in the front corners. For that, I'll pick the 45-degree module with the door, in order to provide an access to the terrace. But I'll move it inside the building, connecting it with the facades using two wall modules. Now, we can add the floors of the terrace. Notice that in addition of using the Snap tool, you can also set the height of the modules directly in the Z numeric field. So I set it to 400, because the ground floor modules are 4 meters high. I repeat the same operation with the triangular floor modules, placing them to complete the terrace floor. After looking the current aspect of the terrace, I decided to delete one of the terrace walls, replacing it with a module with windows. Next, we can finish the side wall, duplicating some of the middle floor modules we have already used. To close the terrace, we could use the top floor modules. But as we have another terrace with railings in the back of the building, we can put the same railings here. First, I will use the 45-degree railing module, and then, I will finish the terrace using the middle railing modules. Notice that the left and right railing modules are not used here, as they are just intended for the 90-degree railing corners. Now, we can use the Scene Manager to select all the elements of the left side wall, and copy them to make the other terrace at the right side of the building. As iClone doesn't have a mirror tool, we have to rotate the duplicated modules by groups. First, just the terrace modules, exchanging the plain wall by the one with windows, in order to get a symmetric building. After that, we can select the rest of the modules that finish the right side wall, and rotate all of them simultaneously. In the back wall of the first floor, we can start with a balcony module with a single door, but as the balcony overruns the terrace that we made over the arch modules, we can select the balcony, double-clicking on it, and simply delete it. And so we keep adding modules from the Content Manager or duplicating modules from the building. Don't forget to finish the corners. In this case, I'll do it using the MF or middle floor columns. Once the perimeter is complete, we can rename again the first element as first floor, attaching the rest of the modules to it, in the same way we did with the ground floor. Usually we could select this floor and duplicate it as many times as stories has the building, but as we have made a more sophisticated building with different kinds of terraces, some of the modules of the second floor need to be replaced before to start duplicating it in more floors. Like the modules with the deleted balconies because they overlap the terrace. That was okay for the first floor, but the next ones will need the balconies, so we should to load them again from the content manager. These new modules are not attached to their parent floor, so we have to select them and attach them along with the rest of modules of the same floor. Looking at the building, I realized that maybe these floating terraces will look safer with some extra columns. So we can duplicate the ones we already placed in the facade. You can see that the process to create the building is dynamic, and you can introduce changes in any moment, depending on how the building is looking. Notice that, as the columns are copies of another ones already attached to the same floor, they are automatically attached as well. So now, we can select the second floor with a single click, and duplicate it as many times as stories we want for the building. Arrived at this point, why not prepare a penthouse with terraces? To do that, first we load from the content manager the floor module, and we made copies of it in the areas reserved for the terraces. Next, using the usual building method, we can mix load top floor walls with middle floor modules, until we get the structure of the penthouse ready. As usual, I renamed the first module of the penthouse. And after selecting the rest of modules, I attach them to the recently renamed one, so we can select it with a single click. We only have to add the top floor rooftop modules to finish this elaborate building. Notice that there are attic modules that can be combined with simple roof modules. The attic modules cannot be placed in the corners of the rooftop as they are reserved for the 45-degree modules or the 90-degree corner modules. You can use the 45-degree rooftop corner module over the previous 45-degree wall corner modules. In addition, there are two corner modules, left and right, that ensure a perfect join of all their elements, rooftop, cornices and plinths. The pack also provides chimney modules, in case you wanted to add them on the rooftops of the buildings. In order to fill flat areas of the rooftop, we can use the terrace floor module, always loading it from the content manager in order to have it not linked with the rest of terrace floors in the building. And using the eyedropper and the bucket from the material editor, we can copy the rooftop tiles material into the terrace floor. Again, we renamed the first module of the rooftop or top floor. And after selecting the rest of modules of this level, we attach them to the renamed one, obtaining a clean and organized structure in the Scene Manager, where each level is a parent object with all its subprops attached. After opening the Material Editor in the Modify panel, now we do the same link material operation we did for the ground floor, for each one of the floors of the building. Notice that the duplicated floors already get their materials linked, and we get that messages indicating that no further material linking is available in those floors. Once we have done this operation, we can see that the graphic memory has been drastically reduced again. One more time, this method is not mandatory, but I recommend to use it. When I have a new building finished, I select the middle module of the ground floor, double-clicking on it, and I detach it. Then I rename this module with the name of the building, and I attach all the floors to this module. Doing it, we can select and handle the whole building in one single step. Now that all the building elements are attached to the same parent object, we can click again in the Material Link button to get all the materials of all the floors linked. That process can take a while if the building is complex, but it's worth, as we can see that the graphic memory usage has been reduced to 2.8 gigabytes. The final step would be to merge all the attached elements to boost iClone's performance. But before, I recommend saving the building in this current state, because now we have still access to all the building modules to do modifications. I have two folders to save my buildings. The first one is for the version where the elements are still not merged and can still be edited. And the other folder is for the same buildings, but with all their elements merged. Now that the editable building has been saved, we can merge its elements, but maybe you want to keep something not merged. For example, all the doors provided in the packed modules are sub-props that can be animated independently. So if you are planning to open any of these doors in your animation, they should not be merged. So we can select the modules you want to keep editable, and detach them temporarily from the main building. Also, if you are planning to use the buildings in a night scene, it's easier to select the windows that are going to be illuminated before the merge operation. To do so, after going to the Material Editor, select one window that you want to illuminate. In the material list, select the glass material and make it unique. Then, select the glow map and increase the slider until getting the illumination that you like. Now, use the eyedropper to select that glowing glass and use the bucket to copy the material to the glass of the windows that you decide that must be illuminated. When using the bucket, the material is automatically copied as an instance. So if we change the slider in the glass of one window, all the copied ones change as well. That's very convenient to change the building appearance from day to night. After that, we can select the building, and in the Modify panel, we can finally merge all the attached elements. That operation takes a while, so be patient. When it's done, we can reattach the detached doors to the parent building, leaving them not merged, so we could animate them independently. Now we can save the merged building in the folder I have prepared for that. Before saving it, be sure you have selected the whole building and not just the last attached subprop. This process also can take a little of time for complex buildings. But keep in mind that props with most of their child objects attached improve considerably iClone's performance, so it's always interesting to have them available. And that's all for this tutorial. As you have seen, you can create complete buildings or just facades, depending on your project needs. We also provide the Modular Street Construction Pack that allows you to build streets, pedestrian sidewalks and median strips in a variety of textures. Always using a similar snap modular system that ensures compatibility with the buildings generated with the Modular Building Construction Pack. And the Accessories for Buildings and Streets Pack that provides realistic assets to complete your streets and buildings. Lamps, ATMs, wiring, gutters, traffic lights, street signals, bus stops, planters. The list go on with tons of props. With them, you can create detailed city streets in iClone. Remember that all the 3 packs can be purchased as a bundle with a considerable reduction in their combined price.